Over the last couple of years, I've spent quite a few practices teaching people how to sail their ILCA dinghy, their laser, um, fast downwind by rocking and rolling to increase boat speed or to prevent the loss of boat speed. The problem is that this is generally prohibited. So to use it without breaking the rules, you have to understand the exceptions. The exceptions that allow you to rock and roll. So first, let's talk about what it does. So if you can center your sail over top of your hull, you don't have to use your tiller at all. The boat will go perfectly straight. And there are a few different balance points, especially when you're sailing negative. There's a nice balance point for sailing straight. Then if you rock or just tilt your boat, your mast to windward so that the sail is on this side of the hull, then the power is on this side and the boat is unbalanced, so it will start to turn towards jibing. It'll start to bear off. If you keep the boat totally level, totally flat, or if you dip the end of the boom down towards the water, that unbalances the boat in the other direction, turns away from jibing or heading up. Now, whenever you turn the boat, the sail is pulled faster through the air in one direction or the other, which gives you apparent wind. And if you're turning away from downwind, you also get to use more of the boat's apparent wind. So all that means is that turning tends to accelerate your boat, and it also prevents you, when you tilt the boat to turn the boat, it prevents you from slowing the boat down by using the rudder. The rudder dragging in the water will slow you down, but tilting the boat over and then letting the rudder follow the natural turn of the boat is much more efficient. So then it's tempting to just turn back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, doing really nice sheeting, steering, and body movement to cause this carve, and it's much faster than just sailing in a straight line passively. But Rule 42 prevents you or makes that illegal. I'll go through all of the actual rules first. So if this is going to be too much for you, you can skip forward until there's no more rule books up on the screen to hear my summary. But here we go with the actual rules. I'll put up the Rule 42 in Swedish first and then in English, but I'll just go through it here. So the basic rule, the meat is that except blah, 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 a boat shall compete by using only the wind and water to increase, maintain, or decrease her speed, etc. Then if we focus in on rocking, rocking is defined as repeated rolling of the boat. If that is induced by body movement, repeated adjustment of the sail or centerboard, or steering. Then the main exception is that a boat may be rolled to facilitate steering. So now I want to go a little closer in to what the interpretations of that are. So for that, you have to look at a document that World Sailing publishes, and that's only in English. So I'll do that one next. Heeling to windward to facilitate bearing away and heeling to leeward to facilitate heading up are permitted. So that's good. That is what I was showing with those orange boats on the board. And then it also says the heeling of the boat has to be consistent with the boat's turn. So jury will be likely to flag a boat who is leaning one way and then turning the opposite way to counteract the turn with the tiller. So always trying to be consistent between a tiller and the heel of the boat. Then, repeated rolling not linked to wave patterns is rocking, prohibited by Rule 42.2, even if the boat changes course with each roll. So, just because facilitating steering is an exception to the prohibition of rocking and rolling doesn't mean you can just turn and turn and turn and turn when there's no waves. So this is a little problematic for some of our flat water sailors who like to rock and roll. But that doesn't mean that you can't rock and roll at all in flat water. So rock number 1, a roll of the boat caused by a gust or lull, followed by a corrective body movement to restore proper trim, is permitted. So if a gust hits, that's also going to accelerate you. So when the gust hits, that unbalances the boat, probably causes the boat to turn too when it's unbalanced. Then using your body, you can press the boat flat and regain your original desired direction. So you're rocking the boat to facilitate steering and to rebalance the boat after the gust. So that's a very good reason to rock the boat. And a lull will also unbalance the boat, and then the unbalancing turns you in the wrong direction, so you're definitely allowed to roll to facilitate steering back in your desired direction, and the outcome of that will prevent you from slowing down so fast in this lull. Now, I would argue that gust lull, also a shift, should probably be in there. So I think that whenever the wind unbalances your boat, you can take corrective action when the wind changes, because of that was the fundamental rule, is that it's the action of the wind that you're supposed to use to make yourself go faster there. So that's rock number 1. Then rock number 2 isn't very helpful when we're talking about purposeful rolling to try to increase your speed, but it's good to know. Then rock number 3 is an interesting one. I'll come back to that. Rock number 4, adopting any static crew position or any static setting of the sails or centerboard, even when stability is reduced, is permitted and not prohibited. So that means that you can set, especially your kicker. I think in the laser, in the ILCA, I'm thinking of if you set your kicker at the perfect tension, the leach of the sail, if you set your boom vang at the right tension, the leach of the sail bounces, flexes, and is quite dynamic. So that can destabilize the boat, and then you can take corrective action there as well. As long as it doesn't just look like you're rocking and rolling endlessly or repeatedly or just to go faster for no external reason. Because that just goes back to the original prohibited thing of repeated rolling of the boat. So you want to avoid patterns of just rocking and rocking and rocking. That's not allowed. But when there's an external stimulus, like you've set up your sail and then the wind flexes the sail in a particular way, that's a really good reason to roll the boat. And then I don't really see much application of rock number 5. So rock number 3, background rolling is permitted. A boat's crew is not required to stop this type of rolling. So background rolling is supposed to be the minimum degree of rolling caused by the waves, but it's hard for the jury and for other competitors to judge what is the minimum amount of rocking caused by the waves. So this becomes a sort of catch-all exception for the average amount of rocking and rolling in the fleet. So when the jury looks at the fleet and all the masts are rocking back and forth a little bit, whether they're turning or not turning, the jury is going to look at the masts that are rocking more than this minimum amount, or this sort of slightly less than the average amount, and then take a look at those boats to see whether the steering is consistent with the turning. And then once they've decided that the steering is consistent with the turning, it's then they have to sort of decide, are you catching waves with this? Do you seem to be responding to something? Or is this just naked, repeated rolling of the boat, which is prohibited? So the background rolling is sort of your safety in my mind. So if you accidentally rock the boat without following with the correct turn, then if you don't do that too often, then that can just be chalked up to background rolling. It was either just your own innocent accident, or it was a wave that knocked you off balance for genuine background rolling. It's nice to have this rule that says that you're not required to cancel out the natural minimum background rolling of the boat, but there's nothing that says that you have to allow this background rolling. So my philosophy as a coach and as an athlete is to actively cancel out as much undesired rocking as possible, so that I can save all of the mast movement, all of the rocking and rolling that's visible to the jury and the other competitors. Save that rocking for effective, purposeful rocking that achieves your goals of maybe getting inside overlap, or catching a wave, or getting out of someone's wind shadow. So whenever your mast rocks backwards and forwards, you're attracting attention from the jury and from the other competitors. Is that person cheating? Or did they have a legitimate reason to turn and rock the boat? So you want to make sure that you sail as cleanly as possible, so that if you make a mistake, that can be chalked up to background rolling and you don't immediately get flagged. Let me try to summarize what it is I mean by sailing cleanly. So when you turn your boat using heel, which is the only way you should turn the boat downwind, you want to follow the turn of the boat with the rudder. Don't fight the way that the boat wants to turn. When you're fighting the turn of the boat with the rudder, then you're actually breaking the rule, and that requires some practice to avoid fighting the turn. Then do rock and roll the boat to catch waves. So you're allowed to turn if the reason of the turn is to catch a wave. You're allowed to turn if the reason of the turn is to respond to a gust or a lull or a shift. You're allowed to, there's nothing preventing you from heeling the boat over to turn the boat to carry out your tactics. For example, turning to catch inside overlap on a boat. That's a good reason to turn. Or maybe you just notice that there's a gust on the other side of the course. So then you would want to lean the boat over, let the boat turn towards the puff, and then flatten the boat. Don't over flatten the boat. Flatten the boat until you're pointed straight at the gust or the whatever advantage there is. Maybe escaping dirty air, for example. Some don'ts. Don't rock rhythmically or in a pattern. Sometimes you make up all sorts of reasons in your head. Oh, I want to avoid this boat. Oh, I want to avoid that boat. Oh, actually there's a gust over there. And you end up rocking and turning back and forth in a rhythm. And that starts to just be repeated rolling of the boat. No matter what you're telling yourself, you don't want to get into a rhythm or a pattern. Then you're probably breaking the rule. And so in waves, often the whole fleet is trying really hard to catch the waves, and there's a lot of background rolling of people trying to catch waves. But in flat water, don't rock continuously. There's no reason, justification for continuous rocking in flat water. And don't rock excessively. So I'm sort of joking, read the room. You want to rock at about the average amount, maybe a little more than average, and have a reason for every turn and rock that you're doing. And presumably those reasons don't come in an organized pattern. The reason can't be because I want to go faster, or you're just breaking the rule. It can be because there's a change in wind, the tactics, etc., etc. This read the room comment, look around at the other boats. What is the background rolling? So if you're seeing that no one else in the fleet is rolling the boat, everyone's probably looking at you, including the jury. And this is a self-enforced sport. At the bottom, we do have the jury to enforce these rules, but you can also be protested by your competitors if they feel that you're rocking unfairly. It doesn't have to be the jury. So look around at what everyone else is doing and don't be the worst offender. And then the other one that goes along with that is Paul Elstrom's quote of, if in winning you've lost the respect of your competitors, then you haven't won at all. So you want to try to be the fastest, the first finishing boat without being the person who rolls the most, or without creating a pattern and rocking in the rhythmic rocking of the boat. And you want to actually honestly have reasons that you're turning the boat, other than just to go faster. One of the best reasons is catching that wave, because then you start surfing and going really fast. And then you have to turn again before hitting the wave in front of you, for example.